Now, to understand the situation more, we're joined from Esfahan by geopolitical and economic expert Mr. Ali Elyader. Thank you so much for being with us on Asia One. So, is Tehran genuinely prepared to close the Strait of Bab el-Mandeb, or is this pressure meant maybe to force Washington back to the negotiating table?
Having me, Miss Asia, again, and pleasure being on your program. Honestly, uh, I've said it in the past, Iran has a pragmatic approach to especially military confrontation. It doesn't play the bluff game. It doesn't backpedal or contradict. When Iranian armed forces, usually, as we have seen in the past, make a threat of retaliation or want to assert force, they usually act on it. Um, I've also said in the past that the Bab el-Mandab Strait was also one of the cards that Iran could have played earlier on, and whether it was uh, based on strategy or courtesy or trying to allow for more diplomatic room. They haven't used this leverage till now, but obviously, with their alliance with the Ansarullah forces in Yemen, this could be used. And since the Ansarullah forces in Yemen and Yemen has been attacked recently, probably under the coercion and pressure of the Americans on the Saudis, um, when the Ansarullah delegation was coming back from the funeral processions to Yemen, the Saudi Air Force or the Saudi forces hit the runway to prevent them from. But Mahan Air and Iran accommodated the landing with Yemen, and Yemen retaliated. So I think the Yemenis also have a dog in this fight right now, and they will probably be eager to cooperate and collaborate with the Iranians in order to choke out the Bab al-Mandab Strait. This is probably a possibility. So I don't see it as a bluff game or some kind of diplomatic pressure game. I see it as a genuine threat.
So, Mr. Elyader, why do you think Trump dropped, the Hormuz transit fee proposal, and how does Tehran read this decision?
Tehran reads Trump's decisions as it has been reading, and for the past, it's very hard to read his decisions. He changes his mind within less than 24 hours. He goes on tweet rampages after 12 p.m. midnight and contradicts, backpedals. Therefore, a 20% fee did nothing but shock the oil markets and cause economic unrest that's going to affect the uh, the prices and economic prices in his own country as well. Therefore, I think he's a man that's acting in desperation, in panic mode, and usually in a game of whether it's war or when there's conflict or volatility involved, usually the party that constantly changes its stances, backpedals, and takes a 180-degree change in his statements, they are the party that does not have a strong footing going forward. So I believe, I think he was shocked at the implications of putting that rhetoric out. The GCC countries were probably in back channel communications telling him not to create such volatility. We must also remember that in the American regime media outlet Fox News and in his interview there, he also talked about being reimbursed from the Strait of Hormuz, not from Iran, but from the Arab states. So they should also see that his stance is, as before, milking them, creating volatility and insecurity in their states. So it's Tehran reads Trump's statements as any other country, including American allies, read their statements. It's full of volatility, contradiction, and uncertainty. Nothing else can be read from Trump's statements. And again, if he doesn't want to be remembered as President Hoover, who brought the world to a Great Depression, I think he needs to put a break on his rhetoric. Other than this kind of rhetoric and these kind of threats being a direct violation of the MOU signed and coordinated and mediated with Pakistan, the MOU clearly outlines that it is a violation if states threaten each other. And that's what Trump has been doing since the onset of signing the MOU.
So, Mr. Elyader, Saudi Arabia rerouted a large share of its oil through the Red Sea after Hormuz closure. Now, if Bab el-Mandab shuts too, what impact will it have on global economy?
Well, the global economy was anyhow hitting an iceberg. The strategic oil reserves, just from the implications of the Strait of Hormuz, were taking a huge dive. A depletion was seen in strategic oil reserves, including the United States. The United States had portrayed a visual or tried to display energy independence, especially in terms of rhetoric. But we see that the American refinery system, their refineries are not capable of using perhaps sweet crude oil, or they had to tap into their energy reserves, their strategic energy reserves, to compensate for the lack of jet fuel and other important energy commodities in the American market itself. So this bluff game was called out after the Iranian retaliation and strategic victory in the 40-day Ramadan war. And this is continuing as the pressure in the Strait of Hormuz is increasing. If you add the Bab al-Mandab to that equation, you're looking at another 10% up on top of the 20% that the Strait of Hormuz represents. So you're looking at 30% of the global oil flows. And we must not forget that Saudi was rerouting a lot of those oil flows through the Bab al-Mandab. So the Saudi oil output was not impacted as much. But again, Iran has cards to play. They have said that they're going to affect certain energy routes. They might be implying the pipelines that are coming from near the Persian Gulf to the Red Sea from the Saudis. That might be a target for them. The Bab el-Mandab itself closing. So, of course, it's going to have huge energy implications, both for the spot price of oil and the futures. You're already seeing the energy prices increasing. Till now, the Americans, whether with shadow funds, whether with manipulating the market, trying to manipulate the derivatives market, they have been trying to show that the crap has not hit the fan, but we have seen it has hit the fan. And the manipulation game and the trying to display something that is not reality is not going to work for the American administration, the American influence in Wall Street. You cannot avoid the lack of supply, and the lack of supply is going to hit the global energy markets. It already has hit. I think the markets are waking up. A lot of the economic experts were baffled why these increased prices did not happen earlier. It was because of the manipulation that the Americans were trying to show in the energy markets and the manipulation that they had. But with Bab el-Mandab, this disaster is going to be even more than with the Strait of Hormuz. It's going to only compile the pressure on the global economy. And that's why I think, again, this miscalculation of trying to assert pressure on the Iranian government, on the Iranian people, is not going to work. I think, again, the Americans bit off more than they can chew. I think, again, they miscalculated by asserting force. And I think just abiding by the points of the MOU, starting with point number one, a proper ceasefire throughout the region, including Lebanon's territorial integrity. And Iran has said, we will move by a step-by-step format as per the MOU. So you meet your obligations and adhere to and comply to your obligations as per the MOU, and so will the Iranians. And that's why I think the economic pressure as well is going to be so immense that Trump might be forced to come back to the negotiation table.
Mr. Ali Elyader, thank you so much for your insights. Always a pleasure to have you with us on Asia One.